The internet era changed the world because it gave people like you and people like me the ability to become modern day Renaissance men because we have an unlimited amount of information at our fingertips. If you don't believe me, jump online and do a quick Google search. You'll see audiobooks, podcasts, YouTube videos, blog posts on a variety of skills. Whether you're interested in doing a moonwalk, sharpening a knife, tying a tie, or even learning how to tell good stories. This is awesome, but it's led us to a new set of problems. Instead of needing to search for days to find a piece of information, we're flooded with an overflow of information. People are so inundated that instead of choosing to pursue one thing, they're just choosing to do nothing instead. You need to learn how to learn. Let's take an example. Some people think they want to learn how to cook, and they view cooking as one skill set, but that's not really true. Cooking in itself is a variety of skills, so if you're starting to cook, you might need to learn about seasoning, then you might need to learn about baking, then you need to learn about grilling. And so you can stack all of these skills on top of each other, and then one day, you're gonna know how to cook. We can look at learning using the same framework. We need to break it down into the subcomponents of learning. So the knowledge chain that we're gonna be looking at is consumption, then filtering, and then implementation. You have to do all three of these things if you want to learn and grow effectively. We consume data significantly faster than we produce data. This is a biological fact. So the average person can talk at like 180 words a minute. The average conversation happens at 150 words a minute. We can process information 2 or 3 times that fast. The first shortcut to consuming more information is just taking your dial and ticking it up. So instead of watching YouTube videos on a regular speed, you can watch them on 2x. You can do the same with podcasts and audiobooks. The second thing we can do is learn how to read faster. One of the best things that my parents did for me was enroll me in a speed reading class. I remember it like it was yesterday. I was 5th grade. I was walking into the class at our local college and I was terrified that I was not going to be able to handle it. But what I learned is that the average person is reading between like 200 and 300 words a minute, but you can crank that up to speeds of 400, 500, 600 words a minute if you know what you're doing. So if you want to get faster at reading, the number one tip that I have is to take 3 fingers and read phrases instead of words. So as you read, scroll your hand under what you're reading, and then all of a sudden you'll be processing the information in bigger chunks. And if you do this, then you'll get through text a lot faster. This is what allowed me to get out of that class reading like almost 800 words a minute. Think about that for a second. I could do my homework in 15 or 20 minutes when it was taking other kids in my class an hour or 2 hours. This is something that has fundamentally changed my life because it has allowed me to explore all sorts of other things instead of just focusing solely on schoolwork. It is important to note that sometimes processing more information isn't the answer. Sometimes it's more about the quality than it is about the quantity. For example, if you want to get better at social skills, then going and reading a book like How to Win Friends and Influence People makes a lot more sense than randomly reading articles on the internet hoping you find one that works. How to Win Friends and Influence People has been read by thousands of people. It's been time tested, it's reliable. If you read it, you're probably gonna pick something up that is useful out of the book. Now, you could go and pick up a new book and hope that you get something useful, but it's not guaranteed. Something else you can do is hear friend referrals. If you have a friend that has read something and has been very beneficial to them, then odds are there are things in there that are useful, and then you can just go straight to that source rather than reading 10 other books. So that's why I picked up this book, because it was recommended in one of the masterminds that I'm in. This all goes to say, reducing your search area is significantly more important than just increasing your consumption rate. We all know that some information is good, other information is not so good. We need to be able to decipher between the good, the bad, and the necessary. So how do we get better at filtering? Well, it's more of an art than a science, but we can ask ourselves some questions to get moving in the right direction. Now, the important thing here is to ask ourselves the right questions. The better the question, the better the answer. So let's go back to that How to Win Friends and Influence People example. Is it relevant? Yes. Is it reputable? Yes. Is it actionable? Yes. Is it too good to be true? No. These are all great questions to ask yourself when you're looking to learn something new. The quality of our information is significantly more important than the quantity. Because of this, it's important to analyze things with a critical eye. Otherwise, we're just gonna fall victim to believing anything. When it comes to filtering, the easiest way is just to consume better content. That way you don't have to waste the time and energy searching through a bunch of crap. What you're gonna realize is you have to pick between price, speed, and quality. Usually there's some kind of balance there. For example, you might find some of the best information ever on the internet. It might take you 3 or 4 weeks to find that information, but it's free. So you're trading time for money. On the other side of that coin, you could fly a consultant in tomorrow that's going to charge you tens of thousands of dollars. They could show you exactly what to do and exactly how to do it. It's going to be extremely efficient, but it's going to cost a lot of money. You just kind of have to decide when it's worth it and when it's not. And that leads us to implementation. A wise man once said, action without knowledge is useless and knowledge without action is futile. I really like this quote, and it's one of the reasons I've become a big fan of reading fewer books and just rereading good ones more times. Implementing what we've learned is the hardest part of the process. And what you see is people just read something and move on from it rather than actually implement it into their lives. If everybody read How to Win Friends and Influence People just to stay consistent on that example, then we would see a lot more people with more friends and deeper relationships because we'd all implemented what we've learned. That's not to say we shouldn't still pursue multiple skills. Recently, I've learned how to make pizza dough. I've started my own real estate business, and I'm still honing my craft as a software engineer. Every skill has its own process. Making pizza dough, pretty easy. Starting a real estate business, really challenging. But as long as you enjoy the journey and you consistently keep at it, you will learn, you will grow, and eventually you will succeed.